I think hey everybody, this is Love and Relo, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I am joined by the lovely Lindy Chapman. Lindy, how are you today?
Hey Ben, I'm great, thank you.
Where in the world are you today?
I am in Boston. We just moved to Boston. We're in the Seaport area. In our what we thought was going to be our little empty nesting love nest.
And what has it turned into in this new normal here? What are you doing now with that empty nest?
Our two kids from New York City thought it would be a great idea to escape New York City and move in with us. We have two other kids that are on the West Coast and Nashville, but the two New York City kids came home. Not expected, wow. But we love them. We've moved 12 times with them, so it's only appropriate that they joined us here in Boston, at least for the short term.
Well, it's got to at least make things interesting, right? If nothing else.
I think this either brings out the best of people or the worst in people. Thank goodness it's brought out the best in them. It's a daughter and a son. One's 24. She works at a corporate job in New York City. The other one's a college student. He's 19. They're sharing a bedroom.
Oh my gosh. I can't imagine. I'm sure that brings them back to, they probably channel their 11 and 15-year-old selves or something, probably, right?
You know, they never really interacted much when they were in high school, just because of the age difference. And so really honestly, good opportunity for them to kind of bond in a new kind of way. But it was not what we expected when we decided, hey, we'll rent for a year. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, Lindy, thank you so much for sheltering in place with me today on Love and Relo. Lindy, our paths have kind of crossed, and we have a lot of mutual friends, and I see some of the stuff and some of the content you're putting out there, and it's really got me thinking a lot about the transferee experience. And I know a little bit about your story, but I want you to share it kind of with everybody else here that's watching, because I think that's really set you up for your career and what you're doing now and what your mission is. So why don't you tell a little about how you got into relocation and kind of your relocation story personally?
I think our stories make the best businesses sometimes. We're passionate about them, and we know things that maybe somebody else doesn't know. And that was one thing that I always tell people is you've got to know what you don't know. Numerous times. I think we had done about 9 corporate relocations. We moved to Germany as expats, and I had lived in Europe twice before, but never on a relocation package. And the service that our provider provided us there was, picked us up at the airport it was just top level. And it really changed. And why real estate agents have never treated me with that kind of just understanding. But she had empathy. It was because she had been a relocation client. She had been an expat. She was an American living in Europe. Her name is Cheryl Koenig with the Cheryl Koenig Relocation Services Group. And she got it. And then we relocated back, and the company spent, God knows on repatriation how much they spent moving us back. And the real estate agent met us at the door of her brokerage houses and told us good luck. The next day, she kept trying to show me new builds, which is what a lot of times my relocation client agents would do, and just never really took the time to understand what our unique challenges were.
What can I stop? I just want to stop you there and ask you, because you're bringing up things as a service provider that are driving me nuts already just listening to you, right? So she gives you a list and says, knock yourself out. Okay, well, first of all, I'm like, well, that's not the concierge service that we all sell in this business.
Right.
And then you said something else. They're always trying to show new builds. Can you explain that dynamic really quickly? Why is it always new builds?
Yeah, and I mean, I've had some great agents, and I gave some of them a shout out the other day. But when you have a bad agent, it's not like I've had movers that have destroyed my floors, but they came back in and fixed it, right? You can fix that. You couldn't fix what she did, right? You couldn't. There's no amount of fixing the fact that none of the repairs were done when we moved in, that she didn't tell me there's an international baccalaureate school literally 2 miles from my house. I didn't find out about it until I'd returned to Germany. My son ended up in 3 different high schools as a result. Those things you can't fix. Floors, they can be fixed. And every time we ever had a damage or a rug was cut when they were slicing it, we'll replace it, not a problem. That couldn't be fixed. And so that was just challenging. And I have a lot more empathy for her now, knowing that she had already worked with my husband for a couple of days. I come to town and I completely undid everything. She's showing him a certain price home, and I'm looking at her saying, no, we have 3 kids in college. I like to travel. I don't know anybody here. What am I going to do with a 5,000 square foot home with a pool? And then she would, so not understanding who her client was. And then, and there's an interesting story about that. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. It cut out for just a second, but I can hear you now.
Yeah, and let us.
I got a little feedback there. But also, really quick before you go on, if you can hear us, or if you're having any sound issues on LinkedIn, because I'm noticing that there's not a ton of folks here on LinkedIn, so I wanted to make sure you can hear us. So please drop a line and let us know if you can hear us. Also, where you're coming from. There, it could just be that my program is stalling a little bit here. Super beta on LinkedIn. We have a lot of people on Facebook though watching us right now. So also, if you're on Facebook, thank you so much. Hit that like button, drop a comment, let us know where you're coming to from. Give us some shout outs. If you know Lindy, give her a shout out, and we'll incorporate you into the broadcast. So Lindy, go ahead. I didn't mean to get you off track there. Sorry.
And I think with the new builds, it was interesting one day. And again, I don't want to throw real estate agents under the bus. I was a real estate agent. I loved my job. I had some that I loved, but I was in the workroom one day, and one of the agents, and this was kind of when it all came home to me, she said that, you know what, Lynn is asking me if I'm live, so I'm going to send her a
go ahead and reach out, because, and you know what, actually, if you can see, okay. And then if you're in there, by the way, also, if you're on the live, go ahead and reshare it. So Lila Smith just checked in. Hi from Dallas. We love her.
Hey, Lila, how are you? She's of course she's there.
Oh, she said something sweet. I'm going to read it. Lindy Chapman was one of my first and favorite people to welcome me to the city. And I love her content, by the way. She does some amazing. And, we're supposed to read her a book, by the way.
Oh,
remember? We are supposed to read her a book. Okay. We might have to incorporate that. I don't know.
Okay. Well, let me know. So here, I'm just going to share it. Okay. So, yeah. So I was in the workroom one day, and these agents were talking, and they said, one of them said something about, I'd been working with this husband. In that case, it was a man that had relocated for his job. And she goes, why is it that every time, everything goes so well, and then she didn't say everything goes out the door and I have to start over. And I just kind of looked at her. I was like, you've been talking, do you not understand? You've been talking to the wrong person the entire, and it kind of dawned on her. But again, and it started dawning on me that so many of the agents that I worked with, and again, not dishing agents, we don't know what we don't know, but so many of them had never moved as an adult. They had never moved with children or pregnant. She was looking at me as a Texan. I'm not a Texan. I'm moving back from Germany at that point. I don't want a 5,000 square foot home with a pool. I've got 3 kids, and my kids aren't in UT, right? I've got a kid in Boston. I have a kid in New York City in college. I've got a kid in out of state, because we didn't have an in-state college to choose. And so it's just knowing your audience. And the same thing with, she couldn't understand why we bought this house in this great neighborhood with a great school. And we were international baccalaureate schools, and because that was what our familiarity was. And we ended up, because she didn't tell us about one that was obscure and we weren't able to find it, we missed the deadline to apply and to go visit it when we were there. And so my son ended up going to 3 different high schools.
Lindy, let me ask you, was that because she didn't know it was there? She didn't listen and know that was your need, or she didn't care to empathize?
So here's the challenges I'm really trying to solve, especially for relocation more than anybody else, because when I move to a new city, I don't know friends. I don't have any friends to tell me who to use. So I find one. Dallas is the size of Connecticut. So think about that. So if I'm moving to Dallas and I'm looking with a Fort Worth agent in Frisco, those two places are completely different, right? Where is that agent going to be when, shout out to Roger Wakefield, who's probably not on here, but he should be, or when I need, or to know about the schools, right? Frisco agent, a Fort Worth agent's not going to know about Frisco schools. We moved to an area that had something called MUD and something called PID. She didn't really know about those. And so there was some stuff that was lost that PID didn't apply to us, but had it applied to us, she wouldn't have known about it. And that can be, and I've seen this happen to a number of clients, which is why I bring it up. And it's a huge cost at the end of the day. And so that's a real challenge. And then you've got, a lot of times I would come into town and I would work with 3 or 4 different agents. Well, how many agents get paid? 1. So I wasted 3 people's time. The one agent that got paid wasn't getting paid a whole lot. We can do this so much better for the agent, better for the relocation management company, or better for the employer that's done in lump sum. We can do this a lot better, a lot more efficient. And so everybody gets paid, everybody gets the service they need. And so that's one of the things that I'm working on.
And that has probably led you to your company. And I want to ask you about your company and what it does and what you see your vision being there. It looks like we're picking back up on LinkedIn here. So I want to just real quick give some shout outs to some people on LinkedIn and Facebook. If you're watching this, by the way, again, we had a little technical difficulty early. So go ahead and leave a comment with where you're located, name of your name, name of your business, all that kind of stuff. Want to give some shout outs. Also, leave a question or a comment if you have a question or a comment related to the transfer experience within relocation. If you want to comment about real estate, if you want to comment about empathy, if you want to share your own journey, please leave a comment. We'd love to talk about that as well. This show is really about you guys, okay? So we talked about Lila Smith. Lila, love you. I'm going to try to have my wife bring down that book real quick. Lynn Greenberg, hi, Lindy and Ben. Hey, Lynn. Nina Robin, hello from Express Corporate Housing. Hey, Nina. And we have a couple folks on here. Jason says, can hear you on Facebook. Sound is a little choppy. Okay. All right. Much love anyway. Appreciate you, Jason. Keep the faith. Hang in there. Let's see here. Aaron Flores, afternoon, guys. Aaron with Victory Relo in Dallas. I think Aaron's a mutual friend of ours, right, Lindy?
Yeah, it does. So eat some good, I don't like barbecue. Eat some good Mexican. Go order some. Toss them in and have a margarita for me tonight.
And Lila just popped in here with a comment. I've traveled to over 100 U.S. cities. Wow. I have found that the people who live there don't even know what's unique or weird or different about their city. That's so funny because when I lived in North Carolina, one of the senior vice presidents of my company said, how do you like North Carolina, living in Raleigh now? And I say, oh, it's great. We went to the farmer's market this weekend. We went out to this art museum next weekend. We went to he's like, you've been more places than I've been, and I've lived here my whole life. And it's, I've gotten the best recommendations for what to do and eat in Dallas from people who have also been New Yorkers. Hey, I'm a New Yorker that lived in Dallas. That was probably me. I don't know. Lindy told me about neighbor. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so when somebody relocates to Dallas, why not pay Lila Smith part of that relocation money to them, to show them around, or if it's a relocation spouse, put them in one of her courses that she offers to help them take their strengths and create their next career, right?
I think that would be brilliant.
We need to get we need to get smarter with this. We've got the technology. It's one of the things that Pivot is doing. We've got the technology there to make this better for everybody involved. And assignments, if you've ever read the Ernst & Young study, the assignments fail when that spouse doesn't get that support that they need.
Yeah, agreed. And Lila goes on to say, Lindy told me about neighborhoods I might want to check out that were walkable. This was the biggest adjustment for me and the best tip. So it sounds like you really made an impact with her and her journey. Let's see here. Lila, go ahead.
I just said, if you're a New Yorker, you don't want to live in some of those suburbs, right? Because you're going to feel a little bit more like home.
Right. You want to live in Deep Ellum, not in Plano, or you want to live in Uptown, not in Frisco. Lila says, Jason Rollins, come watch it. Lincoln. It's the other white and blue app. I'm not sure if it's your mic or if it's the connection or not, but I'm not sure. Maybe try the computer
Yeah, I
mic
don't-
even. Yeah, maybe just roll with the computer mic. I'm not sure.
I unplugged it. I'm not on the computer mic. I can go and try to get another
Okay.
microphone. Because you talk every night.
Yeah. Take a moment. Take a moment. Yeah, take a moment. And then while you're while Lindy's doing that, because I want to make sure you guys have the best possible viewing experience. Let's see here. Oh, that's funny. Nina Robin. Hi. Yes. Jason Rollins. Lila says, I'll take that money. Great idea, Lindy. See, Lindy's going to book you. She's going to book you as a DSP, a destination services provider. You didn't even know. You didn't even know that was a whole career, Lila. Lila, I'm going to give Lila a shout out real quick here. We're going to make this the Lila show in lieu of Lindy while she gets her AV worked out. But Lila's from Say Things Better. She's a creator on that, from there, and her stuff is great. So go ahead and follow her as well if you're on LinkedIn right now watching this. And then let's see, Aaron's tagging Jennifer Fisher, Kelly Lynn Rabbits. Oh, Kelly Lynn's great too. Yeah, I did a talk with her as well. Lindy, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you? Is this better?
A little bit. Get that thing set.
Is it a little better?
Yeah, sounding good.
Okay.
You sounding good. All right.
Yep. All right. I don't. It didn't work. Okay. Awesome. Sorry about that.
No, this is good. It's very good. Actually got a bunch of people on Facebook as well. So go ahead and each other. That's always a great sign when people actually start tagging each other. That means like, hey, come watch this. All right. So anyway,
Aaron,
let's get back to your journey. Yeah.
Yep. So I don't
cool.
remember where we were. That was
so
like 5
you
minutes
recognize
ago.
that there was this major issue in the service that you were receiving as a new connoisseur of relocation services through all your experiences, right? And so
it worked. It just doesn't make sense. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's fine. I wanted to hear you. So you started 1-800 or not 1-800. You started 180 Relocation Consulting. Tell me what the idea behind that was, and what your journey and your mission is around that.
I'm going to plug my microphone in again now that I've got my earphones. Hang on 1 second. Apologies. I'm like in isolation here.
What's funny? I do these all the time, and every time I do them, it's like the first time I'm doing them. I always struggle with the audio myself.
I know. Well, I've been on Zoom and stuff, and I haven't had any problems. But for whatever reason, today, of course, is the day. So the idea behind 180 Relocation, it keeps evolving and changing directions, which was the whole point of coming up with 180. It started out as I was going to be a destination service provider and be the person that helped companies. I had a company that moved from California, and I managed their relocation because I had left a big company which was kind of interesting. That's a whole nother story. And so I started kind of with another broker, which was able to do what I wanted to do. Moved about 4 guys from California so I thought, oh, that's what I'll do. But what I began to realize is that I could only serve so many people. And I also learned about myself. I don't want to run a business. I don't want to manage people. There are a lot of people out there that do what we need to have done. They're already set up. They're great people. I just would rather help them be better at their business. There's a friend, I don't know if she's on today, but I'll give a shout out to Joanna. She's a Strength Finders coach, and she had me do my strengths. And I appreciate Lila for her understanding of strengths. And when I did that, I realized my strengths are connecting people and helping people problem solve and come up with new ideas and ways to do things. So 180 kind of evolved to be more of a consulting service. I quit listing homes because I was tired of watching people lose literally tens of thousands, if not 100,000 and more of their money because they listed with the wrong, not a bad agent, just not the right agent. And I won't go into all that today. You can probably read some of the articles I've written, and I tell more stories about. So it became more of a consultant. Forbes wrote an article and interviewed me about why I don't list homes anymore. But I would go in and I would help people determine the right price, the right strategy, the right real estate agent. And that's really different for every single seller. Sometimes you need to pay 6% commission. Sometimes you need to do for sale by owner. It's usually something in between. You also need to look at agents are in your neighborhood. You need to look at the houses sold in your neighborhood and see what agent did a really good job and sold it in the highest price, lowest number of days compared to, and you'd be surprised at what you find when you break it down like that. And so I started consulting with people, and I would go in and they would have had one real estate agent, another agent tell them 750. How do you, I mean, that's a big discrepancy. The last one I went in had been told 375. Right? Another guy that I went into had been told 375 and 450 by two different agents that were two very well-known agents. Again, that's a really different price point. He didn't listen to me. He listed it at 405 in a neighborhood of $100,000 homes. Last I checked, it was still in the market 4 months later.
So I got to ask, because I'm not an expert here, and if someone tells you to list it at 375 and somebody tells you to list it at 450, which is the right answer? And I mean, it's not as simple as you're just going to make 75K more with the other one. There's obviously a strategy behind that. Is it going to sell for the same price or not at all, or what?
No, there's no strategy. That's how, and they look at things two different ways, or they read the data wrong, or they buy the listing. I had a listing at one point, and I had the listing actually. I actually made the photos, and I had it listed at $499, and they really thought it was worth more. And I said, let's get an appraisal. Let's find out what the appraisal says. The appraisal came in at 480. I said, I still don't have a problem listing it at 499 because the market was really hot. And the next thing I knew, an agent, the top agent from my former company, sign was in their front yard, and she had listed it at 589, 100,000 more. It never sold.
Did she get the listing because she went in at 589 because she was like, oh, I can get 589? Yeah, I see what you're saying now.
And with these companies, and it was my former company, you have to have so many listings. You have to do so much business in order to keep a favorable commission split. And you also get new buyers and you get new business when you have listings. And so listings are kind of like when I quit listing and I told people I didn't list anymore, they couldn't believe it because I had like 4 listings at the time.
Because selling homes is where it's at, right? Selling homes is where it's at theoretically for a realtor, right?
Well, I worked with buyers. I just worked with buyers at that point. I love buyers. I have a passion for helping them get connected. I connect with them afterwards. I sold a home actually last week to one of my former buyers in Dallas who wanted to buy another home, and he called me to do it. I don't live in Dallas, but that's kind of the way that it's going. He didn't need me to be there. He found it, right? We were able to do everything like this. And that's where we begin to see why there are lawsuits against that fixed 3% commission to the buyer's agent in most states. They call it fixed, and that's what the lawsuit's against. And that's going to be a real challenging thing for the relocation industry to navigate, for the brokerages to navigate, because it's a business based off of those commissions.
How is the commission structures that are going on right now, because you talked about them, so I'm going to ask, impacting the actual relocation experience of transferees? I mean, you talked about it. You talked about three folks worked on your home, selling you your house when you moved, and only one got paid. So you wasted 2 people's time. One person got paid, and maybe they didn't even get paid the right amount. So, I mean, what does that impact like for those people that don't know?
Well, I mean, it's in that case, I just worked with one agent because we were coming in from Germany and we only had 5 days to look at houses. She had already shown my husband houses one day. Didn't get picked up from the airport. We're given open houses to go see on our own. But it was funny, on Tuesday, that was on a Sunday. We looked on Monday. On a Tuesday, she goes, I can't work with you today. I have clients I'm picking up from Atlanta.
So basically, you're not important. Basically, is what you take from that. I'm not
important, right? And so I understand referral fees. I understand the need of them. I get it. But let's make sure we're giving it to the agents that are hungry and that want doing it because they don't have anything else to do, which was the other challenge. A lot of times it was the broker making these agents that didn't have enough work trying to get into trouble here. Please don't call and give me ugly messages if you're listening and you're in the real estate world. I have enough of those on my phone. I'm really a huge agent advocate in that she should have been able to go, Lindy, I can't work with you today, but I have an associate that will work with you today. Right? She should have known to do that. Or I'm moving this week myself. I've got other clients in where I'm a 90-10. Let me give you to another new agent that can do it. But the brokerages don't want the new agents to do it because they're already taking 50% of our commission. And I always agent ever. We talked Cardis into letting a new agent list our home in Augusta, Georgia. Shout out to Venus Griffin if she's on here. Best agent, one of the best agents we ever had. And I think we were her second or third listing ever. But she was hungry, right? She was eager to please. She could care less what she was getting paid. And her broker was kind enough to say, and she's now one of the top 1% in the country.
Wow. It's funny. I had a client like that here in Michigan where the client, a corporation, connected with this realtor who was, newish, not totally green, but newish and hungry and wanted the business and worked super hard for the business and would do area tours and all sorts of things like that just as a value add, frankly, right? And, really won this business and became entrenched. And the client added her to her supply chain with the RMC, added her into the RMC supply chain. Basically got rid of the incumbent provider, gets a call from the incumbent, and there's a sense of entitlement around the business, which is probably the reason that they lost the business in the first place, is that sense of entitlement. So, anybody that's watching this out there that's a service provider of any sort, real estate or otherwise, I think can learn a valuable lesson from that. And it's don't take anything for granted. And treat every customer like they have a choice in the matter. I think sometimes in this directed kind of business that we live in this B2B world, we think that people don't have a choice, and it starts to influence and inform the way that we operate. And I think we're doing ourselves a disservice. And I think that's the experience that you've had on more than one occasion. Am I right, Lindy?
Oh, yeah. And I was thinking about it last night. Every house but one home I ever lived in, with the exception of Germany, found. So I would find it on my own because I wasn't getting what I needed. So there you've got the client that needs the absolute highest. A lot of times, not always. Again, it wasn't that I had necessarily bad agents. I didn't have the right agent, right? And I think I'm a problem solver. I'm a connector. I'm analytical. I told people no. It's one of the reasons my hashtag is not your realtor, because I told people no almost as often as I told them yes when they would call me and say, can you list my farm and ranch? No, I can't. Yes, I could, but I'm not, because you need a farm and ranch agent or a condominium agent. And that's the problem with the business. I write and say and speak a lot. And one of the statistics I use is there's 2 million agents in the US. Do you know how many homes are sold every year?
Half that.
5 million. 5 million.
Oh, really?
So 5 million homes, you've got 2 million agents. How many so in any business, 80% of the people are, 20% of the people are doing the work, but you begin to see, I actually have a really fun commercial that I haven't released yet that Jake Melton is in, talking about the frustration consumers feel. It's one of the things I really want to do. I haven't done it yet, is a man on the street interview, because I think we need to hear what the consumer is saying, right? It really has struck me, like I said, being in the real estate office and hearing people. I was at the Inman Connect conference, great conference in New York City in January, but they kept talking about, it became very clear that the client, the people whose problems they're trying to solve, are the brokers. Right?
What does that mean, Lindy? Help me understand that. Yeah. Help me understand that.
Well, because brokers get money, brokers make money based off of the number. And one of the top brokers there, one of the VPs said at one point, he said, we are in this business to serve our real estate agents. The consumer, and that's the way consumers feel. And he didn't mean it in maybe perhaps the way that it sounded, but if they don't have, and I made a post, I think last week, I had 5 phone calls last week from brokerages in Dallas asking me to come on board with them. Not because I'm a great agent, not because I live in Texas anymore. They've got to have bodies, because we can desk fees and we pay 30, 40, 50% in commissions. right?
Right. I mean, that's like the whole multi-level marketing strategy. It's not about selling the product. It's about selling
Totally.
people on selling the product. You know, it's
Right.
if
So
you're in the business of making desk
marketing.
fees, yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah. So when I went with my company, they brought on 100 agents. So do 100 times $200, and you see what money they're making every month.
Yeah.
When I left, 10 agents left with me. They couldn't get rid of us fast enough so they could bring on the next crew, because we'd all kind of gotten to where we weren't at 40% anymore. We were getting up to 30 and 20% commission splits. But they can bring new agents on, and everybody in that time, she goes, every agent is going to sell a house to a friend and a family member. So,
Right.
and again, I'm not dishing the agent. I love the industry. There's so many great agents, but if you ask any great agent how many bad agents they know, you'll realize that that's one of the big challenges. And again, that's the challenge when you're that client coming into town and you don't know who to trust. And everybody's giving you their cards. Everybody's calling you. Everybody's putting you on their list.
Yeah. I've seen that. I mean, as a mover networking with real estate agents, and you just go through and you connect with people and you realize none of these people sell any houses. They're all just real estate agents because they wanted to sell their own house. They wanted to sell their own house one year, and they got their license, or they want to sell their mom's house or whatever, to your point about a friend and a family member. But now what are the solutions now? So obviously we've identified a bunch of problems, and now let's shift gears and say, okay, how do we solve this? How do we solve this transferee experience problem that we have? And I think, I think you're so onto something. I'm going to get on my soapbox just for a second, right? Because as we see the marketplace shifting, right, and we see more consumers, transferees wearing the consumer hat, i.e., lump summers, right, and folks who are doing cafeteria style, core flex, whatever you want to call it, plans where they're asking for more choice. To me, that's a response to the poor service and poor experiences that they've had in the past, where the current menu of offerings is just not addressing what they want, and so they're saying, I can do this better. And so, what is the solution there, Lindy?
It's how the solution problem is. And so that's really what my LinkedIn Live will be about, is really interviewing more of these people that understand. Again, like I said, we don't know what we don't know. Once I became a real estate agent, I began to understand the problem, and I began to have more empathy for real estate agents. I began to understand what their challenges were. Kind of for the way I treated some of my agents and my frustration level, because a relocation mom with a baby that's pregnant, that has a toddler, we're difficult. We're challenging, right? But at the same time, our company just spent $120,000 to move us to Boston. I've not had one single follow-up call. I've not had one single person check up on me. I didn't get any relocation support. I left a 6-figure job to start all over again with absolutely no support. When there are so many coaches, I had a real estate agent that was paid. I found the buyer. I had to list it with in this case, I had to list it with the corporate relocation real estate agent. I found the buyer, then found an agent, which is very typical. Like I said, I found every single one of my homes but one. And then that agent begins to proceeds to tell me, based on a relocation home next door that had not sold because the agent wasn't motivated to sell it, and it was a bachelor that lived there, so it also needed a lot of work, proceeds to tell my buyer that's already said that she will pay my price. It's backed up with a professional appraisal, that it's overpriced by $50,000. And I called her up. I said, you expect me to pay $20,000 in commissions to you to take my price down by 50? Where does that make sense? And she had never seen the house. She had never shown the house. And at one point, my agent even looked at me. She goes, because we finally got within $5,000 of where I wanted to be. And she finally said, Lindy, it's just $5,000. And I said, it's my $5,000. And she said, but they're paying for your $50,000 of your closing expenses. I said, that's so I can move to Boston. And I'm paying more for a 2-bedroom apartment here, bedroom house in Dallas. Right? It's understanding.
Don't you love it when somebody says it's just $5,000?
It's just
like
5,000.
imagine
I'm
you
like,
went out to dinner with your
Yeah.
husband, and the bill comes,
Yeah.
and instead of $42, it's $5,042. Like, that's a
Yeah.
big difference.
Now yeah. No, I'm a bad negotiator because I want what I want, right? I mean, it's like, and I'm such a, even when I was a buyer's agent, it could be challenging for me to, because I always wanted to kind of create a win-win, but usually it was, I really wanted my buyer to come into a house where they were welcomed, right? So they didn't, because you see bad situations like that. And so it was really trying to find out what that win is for both parties. And, but yeah, I'm a consumer advocate. The seller's paying for it. They're paying for my services. So if I couldn't get the price that I wanted, then I would rebate my whatever commission I needed to rebate to make it. So I was paid for my time and my expertise, but so my client got what they wanted, right? So, and we could get the repairs we needed. So anyway, and I don't want to get too much into the real estate other than there's so much. Here I bought and sold 12 homes. There was so much I didn't know about real estate until I became an agent that it would have been so helpful. It's what kept me from losing $50,000 in this corporate relo, right?
And it's crazy to me too.
So,
and I think people hear the number 120K. So if a company pays 120K to relocate somebody, 90% of the population send back and say, wow, that's amazing. Gosh, I wish I got 120K to move somewhere, man. But you know what? It's funny to me that, and funny is not the right word. It's ironic or interesting to me that it still wasn't a good experience. And what I found in moving, what I found in relocation, what I found as a consumer is that price and experience, there's not a huge correlation. We think there is. We use price as a shortcut in determining what the probable quality of an experience is going to be, but it's such an unreliable shortcut. It's not indicative at all.
Right. No, absolutely. It's very true. And that's, and again, it's why I love Pivot and what Lynn Greenberg has done with that. I think it's a way to really streamline what it is I need. I need connection. I need empathy. I need the survey that I told you we just did. Everybody that has responded, not one person has named anybody in the process that has followed up with them. They've all moved since January. Not one person, not a mover, not a real estate agent, not a relocation professional has called to say, how are you? How are the kids?
Tell me about that. Tell me about that study, because I'm always interested to hear data and studies and these voice of the client kind of studies. So can you tell me a little bit about that survey?
It's not scientific. I just put it together. I have a couple that I've done. I did another one more related to the real estate side. But it was just trying to understand the effect of COVID on a recently relocated client, right? You think about that young mom, that mom of teenagers, they've given up a career, or the father that has come here and his wife's got a job and he's coming here to look for a job and everything just shut down. And that spouse is on the phone trying to keep their job, and he or she is trying to find a job, and they're stuck homeschooling kids. And they don't know anybody yet. They don't know where the hospitals are. They don't have a pediatrician. They don't even know how their health insurance works, because that's changed. They don't have, if there's a disaster, if something happens. I mean, I went into labor at 30 weeks in Chicago. I knew absolutely nobody to call. Went into the hospital. I called some random person to come pick up literally, they came and picked my 1 and 3-year-old up. We became very good friends after that. But
wow,
who would you call today if that happened? Right?
I have a 1 and 4-year-old. Yeah, I have a 1 and 4-year-old, and we don't have great. I mean, we've been here in Michigan 4 years now. Don't have super close friends here in the area. Mm-hmm. If my wife was pregnant and she went into labor, gosh, that'd be a scary phone call, because you're like, I got one on the way, and that's great, and I want to have this one, but I also want to keep the other 2 I got. So who am I going to just call up randomly? I mean, I empathize.
So my heart, like I said, I'm empathetic, and so as I do this, I've been finding these people that have these stories. I talked to a lady for 2.5 hours the other day who had moved for her job from California to Dallas, and lost her job 3 weeks ago. She moved. She's a single mom with a son. Right? Nobody's calling up. Nobody's checking on her. She doesn't have and again, that's I go, if we have the boots on the ground, if we have Pivot, if we have a Lila Smith in town, and my whole job is to connect people and go, you know what, you need to get in Lila's Say Things Better group, and you'll have accountability group. Or I'm in one right now with a guy named Jake Ability. It's called Impact Over. Oh gosh, he's going to kill me if I can't remember what it's called. It's called Impact Over. Sorry, I can't remember the name of it. Attention,
fine.
Impact Over Attention. But again,
Impact over attention.
Think about it. That's like you said about, but you said that about money, right? It's not about how much money we spend. It's how we make people feel, right?
Huge.
And
I mean, that bears repeating. It's not how much money we spend. It's about how we make people feel. And a lot of those feeling things, those feeling touch points, those empathy touch points cost nothing. And yet we struggle so much.
Not a dime. Not a dime. And here's one other important point. Your client, it's me. Your client is not the employee. Your client is not the company moving the employee. Your client is me. It's the relocation partner. It's that family member that has left everything. I ran into the people that did our furnished housing. They spent $10,000 a month for my husband to live in furnished housing from August until December. And I'm online looking it up because I've got all kinds of connections in furnished housing. And I'm going, why are they paying $10,000? It makes no sense. But anyway, I ran into the people.
What you say, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but this is so important. This is so important because people are looking up what these services cost now, because now they're paying the tax bill on a lot of this stuff too. So now relocation expenses are all taxable now. So people care. Before they was like, my company's paying, I don't really care, whatever. Right. But now they care.
Absolutely. They do care. But I ran into her and I said, here, I just want to give you a little piece of helpful advice. I would never rent that unit to another executive. I said, it was loud. The Boston Symphony Orchestra sign is bright and neon, and it shone. I couldn't sleep. I said, it was horrible. I said, I didn't even come, and I wouldn't even come some weekends because I wouldn't sleep. It's near the fire station, the police station. It was loud. Now, my husband's gone 70 hours a week working. When he would get home, he crashed, right? It wasn't really, he'd had another problem with the apartment, and it took him 5 days to finally get the bed fixed. So he said, Lindy, I'm not even going to call him. They want to move us to another unit. It's not worth it. And she goes, well, why didn't you let us know? And I said, I don't have anybody to contact. I don't have any. Right? She goes, we should have gone to the office. I said, I did twice. Nobody was there. She goes, well, what about the app? You could let us know on the app. I'm like, I don't have the app. Nobody's given me the app.
Because your husband was the transferee. Your husband was the transferee, so he had the app. But you're the one that's impacted. You're the one that's living there. And you know, I think the other thing about, well, why didn't you say something? It's like service providers. We I'm going to say we, because I'm going to lump myself in there. We blame the transferee for not saying anything, or we either blame them for being unreasonable, or we blame them for not telling us there's a problem. And we fail to take responsibility and oftentimes foresee these issues. And had we had a little more empathy in the process, we probably would have foreseen these issues, because had it been our own situation and being there and we would put ourselves in their shoes, we probably would have known that this could have happened. I mean, anyway, it's so interesting.
Or spoken to the right person. Yeah, or spoken to the right person. The surveys always go to him. And I asked him, I said, what did you fill out on that survey? He goes, I gave him 5 stars. I said, you did, like, what? He goes, what am I going to do? Tell the company they just wasted their money? I said, send the survey to me, right? Let me just, it wasn't about, it was really, when I talked to her, it was really about constructive feedback. Like, please do not put another person in that unit. You wouldn't know this unless you slept there. You wouldn't know this during the day necessarily.
Right. And I'm sure
at night, it was so loud and so bright.
And I'm sure it had a 10 point walkability score, but that may not have been the number. But that may not have been the number one. Well, it was a fantastic location, except that it was near a firehouse and across the street from a neon sign that was 5 stories tall, Yeah. So, that's so interesting. That's so interesting.
And so again, I go back to, I would rather them have taken I feel like there was probably about $40,000, $50,000 overspent on our move. I would have rather them taken that and given it to somebody like Willie Baronet that helps with the homeless, or to any other cause that they could have given it to, than for it to have been wasted. And it would have been really nice if they give me a couple of $1,000s to spend on a coach. So a job search, somebody, right? It or to pay for my new website as I change over my, that would have been really nice. That's the $5,000 that I would have liked to have had from the sale of my business instead of having to come out of pocket.
But it's just $5,000, Lindy.
As my children say, Mom, these are first world problems, and I get it. But why don't we solve some of the bigger problems that we have in society by changing the way we do things? We can do things more economically today because of technology, and because the consumer is doing so much of the work. Reload companies were already concerned about their profit margins. What are these companies going to do now when they want to move? They know that the employee is going to be so thrilled to have a job. How much money are they going to throw at it now? Not 120,000, right?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. It's a great point. You're going to see probably more austerity measures, and we didn't really fully recover from 08's austerity measures. We got some comments coming in here. I want to just really quickly honor those who commented, especially when they're so kind. Thanks, Dad. I appreciate you. I give you half the credit for how good I look.
Hi, Dad.
I gave myself a haircut. I gave myself a COVID-19 haircut. So I'm working hard over here. Thank you, Dad. I appreciate you. Janet. Thanks, Janet. You're so kind. Aaron says bigger issues with lump sums. Yep. Yeah, we think we have, first world problems. You get 120 grand to relocate and it's not good enough. My sister got 1,500 grand or $1,500 to relocate. Imagine, right? Janet Turner, wow, thank you for your candid communication with us. Yeah, thank you, Linda. You have been very open and honest, and I think it's key, and it's the kind of feedback that we need.
And again, it's just here's the thing about this industry. People are in this business because they have a gift of hospitality. They want to do the right thing, right? They're in this business because they are servants. They like to serve. But sometimes we forget who that person is, right? And we're having to meet the bottom line, and we're having to meet certain criteria, and we're working with the way, honestly, again, my challenge was never with our movers. Our movers were always great. I always thought Cardis and Grable and some of the other relocation companies that worked with us was great. The real estate agents, though, again, it's not curated. Why aren't we curating that? Why aren't we changing the way that's done? Because that is an industry that is operating the way it did 30 years ago. The consumer's not operating that way anymore. No. I have everything I need right here. I had a lady that wrote contracts for me for $600. I could have saved my company $20,000 at least in commissions if they had just been willing to look at a different way to do it. And that way RMCs can still get the money that they need, but they're going to have to start pivoting and looking at some of these tech-driven companies. Home Genius is one of them. There's some other ones, but even beyond that, I don't even think, for me, with what I'm doing, I'm not limited to any brokerage. I don't care if you're with Keller Williams, England Vokers, or no-name mom and pop down the street. What I care about is your heart and service for people, and do you have the local knowledge and the time?
Mm-hmm.
That's the criteria, because I can get somebody to write the contract for $600.
That's right. And a lot of times,
not the hard part.
A lot of times we fall in love with these big brands and these national brands because they have a big name, and frankly, it's lazy sourcing is what it is. Sandra Clary has a great comment here. Now, let me just read Sandra's comment here because I think it's timely. Great comment here, Sandra. She says, Lindy, you're correct. There are great agents and there are poor agents. So the challenge is how to design and manage a program that ensures that expert, eager, empathetic customer advocates are the ones who have access to relocations. And that includes the design of after contact. I am a former realtor and used to manage a program for a large real estate services firm. So I've seen it from all sides to include as a user of services. So she definitely agrees.
Good. Spot on.
Yep.
Yeah. And again, the other thing that really struck me, there is no specific training other than the transaction and how to work a transaction with Cardis or there's no training on, I'll never forget going with my mentor to a listing appointment when I was very new, and the couple was moving to Switzerland. And I walked into, and she's just in business mode, right? Getting the listing done and everything. And I'm reading the room. It's an employee that is so excited. He got his first international assignment. He's moving to Basel. And it's a wife that doesn't know what she thinks. And there's a grandma there and there's a 6-month-old. Not happy, right? So while she's listing, I'm just over at the table. I'm connecting her with Toy Town, Germany. I'm connecting her with the International Club, the New Moms Group. I asked them how they're paying for their travel. They were getting 3 first-class tickets a year. I said, oh gosh, get the lump sum. Just ask them if they'll just pay you the money. That's like $24,000. Mom can come over anytime she wants to then. Mom's eyes get big. I tell her I had all 4 of my kids in Germany, how fantastic it was. By the end of the appointment, the house was listed, and the whole dynamic of that family has changed because all of a sudden they have hope. They have expectation. They have, this is going to be okay. She's done it, right?
They have a strategy. They have like a strategy. I mean, you really dug in deeper there. You didn't just say, here's your benefit. Thanks, have a nice day. You said, well, here's your benefit, but if I were you, this is how I would use it.
Oh, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I couldn't have listed a house then. I mean, going to real estate school does not teach you how to do a contract at all. So, again, I already told you what the purpose of real estate agents are. And a lot of real estate agents wake up and realize that and leave like I did to kind of go do my own thing because I was able to tailor my services according to what my clients need, right? When you go into a move, you're a plumber, right? You don't drive up to the house and decide, well, it's a big house, we're going to charge that. You base it based on what they need. Have they already packed it for them?
Right.
When you drive up into a big house, you don't go, well, that water heater is $500 for the guy down the road, but I'm charging him $2,000. You don't do that. So why are we doing that when they pay the same amount of, if I'm working with a client for 3 different weekends and, the commission's $15,000, I've probably gotten underpaid. But what if they call me and they go, hey, and I've had this happen, I don't know, 6, 7 times. We found the house. Will you write the contract? And it's $1 million house. And the commission is $30,000. I haven't had it happen to that expensive a home. But I mean, do you know what I'm saying? So why is that commission so much different? And with relocation, we really could tailor this so that you've got an agent every day and you get the services you need, and they're frustrated with the relocation management companies because they're frustrated with the relocation management companies. But it doesn't have to be that.
I hear that. I hear that a lot. I mean, do you see it going to, in the consumer space, in the consumer relocation space, you're starting to see these iBuyers and you mentioned 1 or 2 of them earlier, these companies that cater to that service, they cater to those types of consumers. Do you see that in relocation?
I think no, because here's the thing with relocation. We need personal touch, personal experience, right? It's not like my guy that called me last week and said, hey, Lindy, I found a house. Will you write the contract? I'm going to buy it, right? All he needed was a contract, right? Very different than my client that moved in from California that didn't know if she wanted to live in North Dallas or South Dallas. And then I'm still calling her 4 months later, right? 2 very different clients, 2 very different needs. So I think it's just, so for that reason, iBuyer is not going to work for relocation clients a lot of times. No, for a company called sellinglater.com, Wendy Gilch, I heard her speak at Inman, brilliant company, and relocation management companies would be very smart to get in touch with her. And you've got a client, they're waiting for the relo. They can't do it right now because everything's been shut down, but they know they're going to be selling their house because as soon as everything opens up, they're moving to California. And put that house on sellinglater.com and they can start, it's not listed, so the days aren't counting against them. But for me, and that was always a challenge for me, was coming into town, I might be, well, the only houses I had access to were the ones that were for sale in April. Selling Later lets us go ahead and see the homes that are going to be coming on the sale in June, July, August.
That's interesting. That's interesting because you're contemplating a reload. Yeah. You're contemplating a relocation months in advance.
Right. And you can, so it's not designed to cut agents out like a lot of these kind of tech companies that to me aren't good, because I always said the agent's my first friend, hopefully. I'm a first friend. You've got to have that boots on the ground. But then again, as things shift, I mean, maybe that is where Pivot comes in, right. Or maybe that's where my company comes in, where I'm like, you know what, you found this iBuyer home or whatever, but you still need somebody to connect you to the doctors, to the career transition resources you need, to the schools. Again, remember, my son ended up in 3 different schools because I didn't have, why don't we have educational specialists? An agent can't be a specialist in every aspect, right? They just can't.
Yeah, that's a lot
but
of
they
skill.
can have
That's
the
a lot of skill
resources.
sets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a
Yeah.
I have a comment
So-
here on Facebook from Victoria, and Victoria wrote me a nice long comment here, and I think that might be a Cowboys jersey in there, so extra points
Yeah.
for Victoria. As a relocation consultant for Carter, we can't. Neither Lindy or I can be seen. I don't know, Lindy, if you can peek over the hedge there at all. I don't know if we can maintain eye contact in this
No, I
this
can
new
see it's all good.
normal. Yeah. As a relocation consultant for Cardis, I am committed to providing top-notch service. And Victoria, we know you love your transferees. I hear the empathy in your
Yeah.
voice. But we are enforcing the client's policies. If my customer is unhappy with an agent, I'm going to make the change. Fortunately, my client allows non-network agent, but not all clients do. Although my service evaluation encompasses all service providers and my clients gets copies of each one, they are very slow to really change their policies, taking into account their employee comments. That goes for most clients. So I'm going to form Victoria's. First, I'm going to ask a question of Victoria, and then I'm going to form her comment into a question. So Victoria, I would ask you, if you're still watching, is the unwillingness to change driven by the RMC? Is it driven by the corporate client contact? What is the root cause? I know Cardis loves root cause analysis. So what is the root cause there? And then Lindy, I'm going to ask you. She says they're very slow to really change their policies, taking into account their employee comments. That goes for most clients. As someone who's really committed to the transferee experience and has moved with so many companies before, why do you feel like transferee stories and voices aren't heard as much?
Again, because they're sending the feedback to the transferee a lot of times. We moved, I think we were with Pfizer and Boehringer Ingelheim, and I think Cardis handled all of their, I know they handled Boehringer Ingelheim's. And again, never had a problem with Cardis. In fact, Cardis let this brand new agent, they let me pick her. They let me pick the listing agent. And again, I remember I told you that story that she was one of our best agents. And so I really do that. But I think a couple of things are at play. One is, I think the consumer doesn't know the questions to ask always to find it. Okay? We just, there's a expectation that every agent's equal, and they're not, because it does, again, remember, time and location are two big things for a transferee. And then, like I said, I have surveys after I had a broker tell me that I was the only person she knew that had ever had a bad experience with a I did a survey, and I have about 24, maybe more than that now, questionnaire, just put it out on Facebook, social media, LinkedIn, and all these responses about their experience with the real estate agent. And it was very interesting to get that feedback, to realize that I'm not alone. And again, it's not that I had a bad agent necessarily. It was just that I didn't have the right one. And so how can we, as a relocation management company, as an employee, you're expecting that real estate agent really to be the boots on the ground, especially for that relocated partner. Right. That is my first contact with schools. It's my first contact with the community. It's really who decides what homes, which is why I've always found my homes, because I never had anybody that could read my mind. And now I have this in my hand that I can find my own homes. But that's really my first contact.
Yeah. And, so Victoria came back and said it's the corporate client. And so I think there's a dynamic. I think there's a dynamic at play, right? And you were able to get that real estate agent that you wanted because you pushed, and
I fought
you've
for
already
it, yeah.
You've already admitted that you pushed, and I applaud people like that, because there's a lot of people that are not comfortable making someone else uncomfortable, and would rather be uncomfortable themselves than make someone else uncomfortable. And I heard a speaker talking about, be unreasonable sometimes, you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish if you're just willing to be a little unreasonable from time to time. But so I say all that to say, you pushed and you got what you want. The squeaky wheel does get the grease. And as service providers, when we look at our transferees or their spouses, or other stakeholders in the situation, we're like, gosh, they're just so unreasonable. Gosh, these people are obviously unhinged and just out there, you know. I mean, these are the stories that we tell ourselves around the water cooler, right? About, you know, Mrs. Jones or Mr. Jones or Mr. Client, right?
Right.
These people
Well, I
are
told
just
you about my
unreasonable.
relocation. Yeah.
But we as service providers, we force our transferees to become unreasonable because that's all we listen to. We don't take the one line, you know, gosh, it would be nice if I could work with Julie down the street as my realtor. I've heard great things about her. We don't take that and run with it. We take a 5-page email that says, and if you don't do this, it's the last move you're ever going to do for me. And I tell what, I'm going to write on social media. Like, we make people become these unhinged lunatics in order to get our attention, because we won't just say, you know, gosh, I'd like to work with so-and-so. Is that possible? Well, you know, we have our policies and we have our network and it's this way because it's always been this way. So transferees aren't accepting that anymore. And they have more in their arsenal than they've ever had. Okay, and they're more empowered than they've ever been because of social media, because they can find so many reviews, because, you know, there's so many groups and forums where they can get other types of feedback and realize I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. I see 40 other people on LinkedIn that feel the same way about me, or 40 other people on my Facebook, you know, spouses group that feel the same way as me, you know. And so I love what you're saying, because I've seen people like you, Lindy, who have been transferees or spouses of transferees who have legitimate concerns with the process, but service providers make them out to be crazy, and they're not crazy. You know, they're just real people going through a real tough situation.
Sometimes, no, there were times that I was the crazy woman, right? There were times.
Circumstances make us crazy. COVID-19 makes us toilet paper fiends. We've never been toilet paper fiends, but now we find ourselves being toilet paper fiends. I mean, circumstances do that to us.
But we do want a little bit of control, and the consumer is always right. I mean, we really do have. I tell a story in one of my things that I do about, and I'll try to make it really quick. A little boy that goes out and he loses his hard contact. And hard contacts are very expensive. And he looks for an hour and a half. He's like, you know, he's trying to find it. He goes back in. He tells his mom he couldn't find it. She comes back in 5 minutes later and she has it. Like, how did you find it? And she said, well, you were looking for a contact. I was looking for $250. And that's your client. You know, I'm the client. When I'm coming to town, I'm looking for my house, the investment, or if I'm selling it. Listen to that consumer. I had a neighbor who tried to get their RMC to list with me because he knew that I had sold every home in the neighborhood at 100% of the asking price for the highest square footage price in the fewest number of days. So my houses in that neighborhood in particular sold in 100% of the price in 4.2 days. And the best next agent was, the average was 85% of asking price in 90 days. And they wouldn't let him list with me.
What was their rationale?
Because they only worked with a couple of brokerages, one of them being the first brokerage that I started with. Nobody has more incentive to sell your house at a high price than the frickin' agent that lives in the neighborhood your price is going to affect their price.
Ooh,
right? And his home was the home. I had a home selling course, which would be another brilliant move for RMCs to do, to go through this home selling course and use Caroline Carter and her book, and just for $400, get them to do everything they need to do to sell the house. That was how I listed homes. I said, look, for every dollar you spend up to this much, I'm knocking it off of the commission. Board the dog, because I don't want a dog in the house if I'm trying to sell it. Paint the garage floor, paint the kitchen cabinets, get a stager, you pay for it, and then we're knocking $8,000 off the listing price, right?
Or off the commission.
So they were bought in,
yeah.
And I got paid for my job, and I wasn't out $1,000, $2,000 on photos and stager and everything else. And so, but they did what I wanted them to do. But again, let's work smarter, not harder. You know,
we got one last question here. We got one last question here on LinkedIn from our mutual friend here, Lynn Greenberg. She has a question and a comment. Were you supported / contacted by your RMC or realtor during COVID-19? And she makes a comment that people are not getting taken care of pre and post move. So were you supported or contacted by your RMC or realtor during COVID-19?
I've never heard from my real estate agent since I moved here, the one that moved me here. I've never heard from the leasing agent that I found for the place that we rented. I've never heard from the RMC. Funny though, I did have a lady that was doing staging for me, and she wanted to sell her house, and so I texted back my real estate agent that the company had paid to work with me for a week or for a day, to let him know that I had this person selling a house an hour from here. Would he know anybody in his company that would be a great listing agent up in that area? He immediately texted me back, and he's like, I've been meaning to reach out to you. I've been wanting to know how you're doing.
Right.
I would love to list that house. Right. And I'm like, you have no business listing a house an hour from here. He even said, I've always wanted to get into that area because it's such a nice area. Right.
I just needed a house to list. I want to be in that area.
Right. Right. So anyway, but one story, 3 weeks ago, I got her connected with a local agent, and the house went under contract before all this went under.
Wow.
So she is good to go. But it's just that kind of personalized understanding. But no, I've not heard from anybody, which for me, it's fine. I don't have little kids. I'm good. I've done this a dozen times. This isn't a big deal. But for that new mom, for that dad that's moved here and is supporting his wife's career, I'm packing my bags and I'm leaving as soon as I can get out of here.
I would think that that if it were not a relocation real estate transaction, but if it was just a realtor who was working their sphere of influence, they would stay in touch with you because they would want that next referral. Yeah.
And a lot of people will. A lot of people will. And why my agent didn't, because we told him we'd be buying in a year. I don't know. And a lot of people do. And again, it's not that agents don't, but again, it surprises me that with as much money was spent on our move, even the furnished housing people didn't call and say, how's your apartment working out? Right? Mm-hmm. How is it? Did your kids from New York City move in with you? Do we need to find you a bigger place?
It's funny too, with as much automation.
It's that little touch of empathy, like we were talking about. It's that little touch of empathy. It doesn't cost you anything. And you know how many service providers we have in this business. But sometimes we need to be nudged. We need to be reminded of the things that we're not thinking about.
Yeah, that's a good reminder for me. I mean, I move people all the time, and it's so funny. I'm hyper aware right now because business is decreased. I fully expected not to have any moves this week initiate. Right. It turns out I had 4. Right. Which I'm happy with. I'll take 4. 4 keeps the lights on. Right. And I actually reached out to one of the relocation consultants. And I said, you know what? I really, 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 really appreciate this move. You sent me this move. I really appreciate this move. I don't know that I've ever reached out specifically, thanked you for an individual move like this, but I just want to let you know this means a lot to me. Yeah. And it started a little back and forth email exchange that they appreciated the appreciation, and it was just one of these little mutual love reciprocation kind of things. And I want to be doing that more often. And so what you're telling me is actually a reminder to me to use more empathy, to connect with people more. I mean, I think it's a strength of mine, but at the same time, I know that it's not. I know that I'm missing so many opportunities to reconnect with people. So I appreciate you reminding us of that. Simon Johns from the UK actually just chimed in on LinkedIn and said, I said for years we are too digital, not enough human. We need to work with digital to be human. Apps work with a human touch. And then I'm seeing Aaron over here. I just want to give some shout outs real quick. Vinny was out for a run. Wants to say what's up. Hey, Vinny. Aaron also said, some of us do, Lindy. With my downtime lately, I've been reaching out to my newly relocated clients just to see if they are okay. Good stuff.
Aaron's probably taking them barbecue. So that's Aaron for you. Aaron's, and again, that's why I tell you, there are great agents out there. Let's help people find them and connect them and match them up according to different interests and stuff. Like if I have a foodie and they're wanting, in fact, I've sent Aaron clients. That's who I'm going to call, right? It's going to be Aaron.
Lindy, we gotta wrap up. We're running late on time here, but I do want to say, is there anything else you want to leave people with, or a thought that you want to share, a last word that you'd like to leave?
I don't think so. It's been great being with you. I loved the guy from England, his comment, because I think you're right. We've got to have the personal touch along with the tech. It's one of the reasons that I'm such a fan of Pivot, is because it really it does that. And it's one of the reasons why I'm trying to help the relocation industry know what they need to know, so that when you tell me, hey, Lindy, we've got some people moving to Dallas, and I can say, here's some boots on the ground. Here are some actual people that all you need to do is say, hey, call Lila Smith, or hey, call Jake Jordan and get in his impact over attention mastermind and accountability group, because you're having to change your jobs. You become the hero. It costs you nothing, but you become the hero and they remember you. Same thing. Go back into your Rolodex and call every single person you've moved in the last year. They're not moving again. They're not going to hire you. But when they find out their neighbor's moving, they're going to remember Ben Cross.
That's a big challenge. I'm going to call that the Lindy Challenge. Reach out to everybody that you relocated in the last year. Thank them, see how they're doing, do a quick little sanity safety check with them, and reconnect with folks. That's a great piece of advice. Thank you, Lindy. I appreciate you being on.
What else do you have to do?
That's right.
Do it instead of watching Tiger King tonight. Don't watch Netflix.
Don't watch Netflix. Connect with people. All right. Thank you, Lindy. I appreciate you.
Connect. So,
take care.
Thank you, Ben. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.